left off was there was things that I didn't say when I was in court. I don't know if it was out of I was scared of what he was gonna try to do, or I don't know. If it didn't still work out as far as the restraining order, um was he gonna come to my house? Or if I did get the restraining order, was he still gonna try to come to my house and do something? It was so many. One of the things that the judge deemed as not a threat to me was the fact that he came to my house more than once, but he had no weapon. So because he had no weapon, that means that technically I wasn't in danger, which I don't know how that works, because more often than not, most people who show signs of being a stalker or whatever the case is, they don't come to your house with a weapon off bat. Not necessarily. He asked me about like if he showed any signs of possible like abuse, and at the time, I blanked out and I couldn't like think of all the things that like ran through my mind. Like I couldn't think of the incident of like Thanksgiving, for example. Like I went to his house to drop off food and it turned into a whole big debacle for no reason because of one thing. So for example, I brought the food to his house. He was acting like a weirdo. He had that weird like I want to punch you in the face look or something like that, or somebody punched his best friend in the face type of look. And he was like, oh, I'm not going to pretend like I'm cool with you, blah, blah, blah. And I was literally just being nice because it was a holiday, because as much as he claims he has a whole bunch of friends that got his back and all this and that, you really don't. Like, to be honest. He comes at me because when he was telling me about his mother's passing, he felt like I was supposed to go out of my way to comfort him. Mind you, I hadn't been around him in months at that time. So for me, I felt like, well, why would you want me around when I haven't even been there prior to your mother's passing? You would want someone else to be there. So if you have all these friends that care about you, why are you not going to them? He proceeds to talk about how, I explained to him that I can't help you through your grief. You have to kind of figure it out for yourself on how you're going to grow as a person and accept the fact that she's no longer here and what you're going to do. And he took that as like me being heartless because I didn't tell him what he wanted to hear. So he kind of came at me yelling about what I said because he felt some type of way. And because I just wasn't in the mood for it, like I kind of came back at him cursing and whatnot, and putting him in his place. And the thing that struck me weird was he was focused on the fact that like if I was going out somewhere and why I wasn't staying over. Why would I want to stay over when you already came at me aggressive for something that I said a while back? Like probably a month ago. Not only that, you know what I mean? Like when we were in court talking about the situation, he tried to play it like he never knew why I came over. Like I randomly just like pulled up to his house, and like not that there was a discussion prior to me even showing up. No matter what the reasoning was to bring food just to be nice. And that was wild to me because when it's in his benefit, he's so that was one situation that was brought up. But when we first went to court, he wasn't even talking about situations that had to do as to why we were in court. He was rambling about random stuff that had nothing to do with why he was even called to court to begin with, and how he made me feel uncomfortable of his existence or nothing like that. He made it seem like he was the innocent bystander that was just being called to court. Another situation that we had that probably would have been good to talk about in court was the time I was chilling over his house. We were drinking, doing whatever, and we get into an argument, and he gets mad, and he pretty much calls me a bitch, slams the door in my face, and all I was doing was I was walking out. I didn't like fight back or anything, and I was just checking to make sure I had my car keys on me, right? And I saw that I had my car keys and I was trying to unclip them, and I kept walking to my car because I parked across the street as opposed to in his driveway. And he comes out with his chest blazed out, looking all tough like he's ready to fight somebody. And I'm on the phone crying with my friend about the situation, about how it got blown out of proportion, and he's blowing up my phone asking me if I did something to his car when you could clearly see I didn't touch his car. I literally went straight to my car and I was on the phone, and he just kept calling me and we were going back and forth, and he just kept blowing up my phone, trying to make me feel guilty about the situation and somehow convince me to stay in what we called a relationship, which I don't even know what it was at the time because all he did was call me. And another thing that I should have brought up was it got so physically bad to be around him that I had a moment of just blacking out in his existence. And by him just raising his hand would trigger a part of my body and cause me to just not see what's going on and just snap. And him around me was just unhealthy in general. Another major big situation that I probably should have brought up was the time that we went out for New Year's, and it got ugly because he got mad about what I saved him on my phone, and he called me all types of bitch and all this and that, pointing his fingers, acting crazy out in public. And he kept going on with the insults like, oh, your pussy's whack, this, that, and the third. And I got mad and I slapped the ever-living shit out of him. And we got back to his house. But before we got back to his house, he was also mad that I went out of my way to call my parents to get a ride, because even though my car was at his house and I had some Christmas gifts at his house, I also did not feel comfortable going back to his house and just being around him in general. So he got mad that I did that, considering everything that happened when we were out. And while we were back home, because I was drunk, I got horny and I wanted to like hook up or whatever, and I was putting aside. But before that happened, he was trying to egg on the fight, even when we were back home. I was just trying to calm down and process everything that happened. And he was like, yeah, if you slap me again, I'm going to do something, da-da-da-da. So me, I'm the type of person, don't challenge me and tell me, oh, if you do this again, I'm going to do this. So I slap him again. And so he gets mad and he throws me. And, well, like, not actually through his door, but, like, where his door was open and where his bookshelf was. And my head hit, I don't know what, and my body hit, I don't even know what, probably the bookshelf in the hallway. And I literally just got up, right? And was like, damn, I was dumb for that. And I'm just standing there, and he comes in my face with his fist swinging like he wanted to hit me. And I was like, well, then go ahead, hit me, because obviously that's what you want to do. And, you know, from there, like, after a while, we ended up, like, hooking up, I guess, making up or whatever. And I was trying to leave in the morning without having to, because at the time his mother was in the hospital, and I was trying to go home. And he woke up in the midst of me trying to leave, and I ended up just spending the day with him like nothing happened, which was like a typical day for us. And I still, until today, I still can't process the fact of how we even went through this relationship, because the fact that we would go through something like that and then wake up the next day like nothing happened, it was partially my fault, I will say that, because it wasn't 100% on him. Because even though, you know, he was doing the verbal abuse, it started getting physical, I stayed around. So that was on me. The part that was crazy to me in everything that I went through with him was there was people around him, but like nobody ever said that his behavior was off or wrong or nothing like that. I was always portrayed to be the bad guy, even if I did do something wrong in the situation, because I guess the people around him, they just let him do whatever it is he's gonna do, and it doesn't matter if he's right, wrong, or indifferent. Another situation that I'm gonna bring up is the time that I invited him to a cookout at my house, and we were all chilling, whatever, and I'm just gonna get to the point of the story. My god brother was like really drunk in the kitchen, and I was like, you can go in the bathroom now. And we were just looking out, and I was asking him, we were just looking out the window, and I was asking him if he was good. And when I walked back outside to go find him, he's in his car driving off to leave. And I'm like going after the car, right? And he lets me get in, and I'm like, what's good with you? And he's like, oh, I know you were in the kitchen talking about me. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, nobody was talking about you. Nobody was even thinking about you. Just because we was looking out the window and you just happened to be sitting in the direction of where we were looking at does not mean that we were talking about you. He was drunk. I was checking up on him, making sure he was good. What's wrong with you? So we're in the car. He's being silent and like psychotic looking. And he's not answering me, and he's putting the radio up, and I'm like, well, are you good? Like, should we even still go to the movies? Because we were supposed to go to the movies after the cookout, and he's not responding. And I have my chai tea in my hand, and I'm like, yo, what's good with you? And the one thing I hate the most is when someone ignores you and you know that they can hear what you're saying. So I threw my chai tea in his face to get his attention. Now, that probably wasn't the best move, but that's what I did. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it and make it seem like I'm an angel and I don't do anything wrong, because that would be a one-sided story. But I will say, he, pretty much cursed at me, told me to get out, and I had to walk back to my house. Luckily, I wasn't that far from my house, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And he went over to his friend's house to like decompress. Now, one of the things that I forgot to mention earlier is when we were in court, the judge also mentioned to him that he did not know that I had put in a complaint with the police station in my town about him prior to sending him to court for a restraining order. And he was shocked that I would even do something like that. But look what I'm dealing with. You're not an angel. I know I'm not an angel, but I'm also not gonna make someone feel. The very last thing that I'm gonna mention about just a few of if I told you everything that I went through with this man, I don't even know how long this video would even be, to be totally honest with you. But he would call me getting drunk at parties with his friends, like parties he got invited to that he didn't invite me to. And he'd call me like I was just some random chick in his phone, and he'd be like, oh, you want to come suck my dick? And then when I wouldn't respond the way that he wanted me to respond because of him being intoxicated and whatever and thinking he was funny, I don't even know, he'd call me a bitch. I don't know why I'm with you, and then like hang up or whatever. And then he'd call me the next day like he didn't just talk to me crazy the night before. Like, this is the few things that I've had to deal with him, and I feel like I should have said these things in court. Maybe things like, I feel like maybe the result that I was hoping for would have come to light, but that's on me. Actually, I have one last situation that will probably always scar me for the rest of my life, and whoever decides to be with this man, I pray for you. If anything gets bad, I hope that you leave. Don't do what I did and give this man 3 years or more. There was a situation, it was his birthday weekend or whatever. And, what couples do, they drink, they're, about to hook up or whatever the case is. And, in the midst of about to, have sex or whatever, it was hurting when he was going in, and I was telling him it was hurting, please stop. I started crying in pain after a while, and he kept going. And he looked away, he kept going until he came. Mind you, I'm crying, I'm telling him to stop. I'm like screaming in pain, and I'm just sitting there, and he's acting like nothing happened and just go back to watching whatever on Netflix. The next day comes, I surprise him with his birthday cake or whatever, and the only thing he can say to me is, oh, you were being loud, my mom probably heard you. So obviously this was before his mom actually passed away. And then he calls me like a day or two later or so, and he's like, oh, well, he actually FaceTimed me, and he goes, well, you're making it look like I'm a rapist. I'm not a rapist, da-da-da-da. And And to be totally honest, what he did was considered rape, because the fact that it was no longer consensual, I was not comfortable, I told you to stop, I'm crying in pain, and you still keep going until you come, that's rape. I'm sorry. And that's my last and final story. Like I said, I don't want to make this video too long, because the video clips that I get to do with my little emoji face isn't really that long, so it makes it kind of difficult to kind of get to the gist of the story. But those are some of the things that I feel like if I had mentioned in court, he would not be like, he would have a record right now, and he would not just, and he wouldn't just be like coasting by life like he didn't do anything wrong. But with that being said, it is what it is. You live and you learn. I don't know if he learned anything from the situation, because he doesn't feel like he did anything wrong. And he thinks he's innocent and he's not a rapist. Till today, I believe he's a rapist. The thought of his presence skeeves me out. I don't want him around me, near me. And like I said, if I told you every waking thing that ever happened between me and this man, you would be looking at a video forever. I just brought up some major points that I feel like I could have brought up in court that maybe would have changed the decision of the judge. But I also feel like it was the end of the day, and the judge did not feel like, you know, doing his job. And that's just my personal opinion, and it is what it is. And the reason why I'm doing this video is because it's something that I feel like I need to do, because this is something that I feel like will always haunt me for the rest of my life. I feel like I have PTSD because of that whole relationship, and it's just something that I really needed to get off my chest, and this is the way I knew how to do it. And I wanted to give you something to watch, and hopefully you learn from. Hopefully this video is inspiring for you to not stay in a situation that is unhealthy, whether you're the toxic one or the other person's the toxic one, or you're just both toxic for each other. Just leave, because it is just not safe. You will end up hurting yourself or the other person, and it's just better to just leave the way, if you have to leave the way I did. I left without saying anything, just for my safety, because I did not want him to hurt me. Well, with that being said, I will end the video here. If you guys want to hear, I guess, more of possible stories of the things that I might have went through with this man, please let me know. Feel free to comment down below, reach out to me on my social media, and I'll see you next time. Bye.